Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Some may say too long. Some may say far too long. And I would agree with some that it has been far too long. It's been something like over a year since my previous music analysis video, that one that I did for Synthesis by Tenshi. And I know that some of you have been counting down the months since that previous music analysis video that I did for Synthesis. You've been eagerly waiting. You've been like, oh shit, when's the next one coming out? I'm hoping it's gonna be soon, right? It wasn't soon, but you know, that's life. Sometimes shit gets in the way and you can't do all the things you want to do at the exact moment you want to do them. That's life, man. That's life. I got busy with other shit. You know how it is. You understand, right? But I'm glad to announce that finally you can stop counting, because right here, right now, at this very moment, on this day, I am pleased to be presenting you a new music analysis video. Today we're going to be covering... God, it's hot in here. I gotta open up a window or something. Yep, that's good. It's gonna cool down in here real quick. For this installment, we will be analyzing a tune that, you know, honestly, I didn't like when I first heard. I found it kind of annoying, actually. I had a friend recommend that I listen to it, and then I had another friend recommend that I watch the show that this song is attached to. And I listened to it, and I was like, oh, okay. Alright, I guess it's okay, kinda. But I didn't even really think it was okay. I found the song kind of annoying. I didn't really like it. But I kept hearing it for one reason or another, and it grew on me, and now I really like it. I think it's fucking sick. Which is rare because, you know, 8 out of 10 times, if I listen to a song and I don't like it within the first or second listen, I'm gonna give up on it, and I'm not gonna want to listen to it further. So yeah, this is a rare occurrence of a song growing on me after repeated listens, and becoming a song that I really like. The song in question, of course, is Idol by Yoasobi. The opening to a show called Oshi no Ko, which I haven't seen, so I don't really have anything to say on that. But the opening is dope, the song is dope. Let's jump in. Actually, no, let's not jump in. We gotta talk business. It would be helpful for you, the viewer, if you had a basic knowledge of some music theory concepts. You don't have to know this stuff, but it would be helpful for you if you want to understand everything that I'm saying. I'm talking about knowing stuff like scales and chords, what these mean and what they are, knowing a major scale from a minor scale, being able to read simple examples of standard musical notation, you know, on a staff with notes and clefs and sharps and flats and stuff. It's also going to be helpful for you if you have a decent sense for rhythm and decent timekeeping. Like, if I count a tempo and I start snapping in 4/4, it would be helpful for you if you were able to keep this tempo going after I stopped counting. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. If you came back in with me, your timekeeping is probably decent, and you don't need to worry about that, alright? And once again, you don't need to know this stuff to get a lot out of this video or even enjoy watching it, alright? And anything that's more complicated than what I just explained so far, I will be providing examples for and explaining in great depth, and also demonstrating by playing, alright? So, for anything that's more complex than what I just told you about, I got you, alright? I got my beverage of choice here. Same deal as last time. I don't feel like I am a particularly gifted or particularly skilled public speaker or speaker without a script. So I've got this. I feel as though I am a little bit more eloquent when I supercharge my off-script speaking skills with a little bit of ethanol. So, cheers. Big, hearty gulp to start us off. From here on out, small sips only. I'm not trying to destroy myself. I'm only trying to get a slight power up. Okay, so we've got the prerequisites out of the way. We've got my beverage of choice out of the way. We've got the introduction to the song. I think we're ready. Yeah, we're ready. Also, I'm getting kind of cold, so I'm going to close the window. Okay, now that we've got all of that out of the way, I present to you, without further ado, Idol by Yoasobi. Let's dive in. I clicked play. What the fuck is going on? Huh? What the fuck? I'll just refresh the page. It's no big deal. Full screen again. Now, for real, without further ado, I present to you Idol by Yoasobi. Let's dive in. 3 seconds in, and we've already struck gold. Jesus Christ. There's so many interesting sounds going on, and they all combine and they layer together to form this very cool, very interesting texture. So let's break down what we're hearing first in terms of types of sounds and timbres. So the first thing we've got is that huge, powerful orchestral hit. It's all the instruments in an orchestra. Got the horns and the strings and the everything, and a huge, powerful bass drum, all playing together, all playing the same note in unison, going like. And right after that, we've got this weird, grating, metallic, mechanical sound effect that slides up. Again. I can't tell what that is. What the fuck is that? Like some machine whirring or something. I don't know, dude. And we've also got the very crisp hi-hats going in the background, playing those 8th notes and 16th notes. And it sounds like there is a very subtle bass growl that doubles the orchestral hit. But only on some of the notes. Like it's in the beginning, and then I think it was there too. But it's hard to tell, because my fucking headphones are down here. It reminds me a little bit of that saw bass from Purple Lamborghini by Skrillex and Rick Ross. You know, fuck it, I can pull it up right now. Oh yeah, here it is. That bass right there. It's very distinctive and pretty popular. Like, you'll recognize that sound. You'll hear it in a lot of songs. But I must associate the way that bass sounds with this song right here. Wait. You hear a little growl underneath that orchestral hit, right? Tell me you hear it too. And of course, the amazing vocal performance from this singer. God, I love her voice so much. It's beautiful, it's clear, it's piercing. There's a lot of emotion in it. She enunciates every consonant so clearly. When I say there's a lot of emotion in it, I mean that over the course of the song, there are many emotions that she displays in the way she sings. Like right now, she's very energetic. The way she dances from syllable to syllable. And the way she dips and rises and dips with the pitch of her voice. Especially at the end. Rising at the end of each line, at the end of each phrase. Like, the emotion here is upbeat and energetic, and maybe even a little bit mischievous. I get mischievous from this. Like, almost like there's a secret that she knows that she's not letting you in on. That's the emotion, the quality of the emotion that I get from this part. And by the way, we are in A flat minor. And I love how everything cuts off after that snare hits. Except for the vocals. Everything is gone except for the vocals and the hats tinkling away in the background. It's creating little pockets of silence. Like, it's punctuating the dense texture that we have going on with these orchestral hits and the weird noises going on in the vocal performance. Then it's back. Cuts off with snare. Silence. Love that. Here we get a crowd singing something, or like a choir vocal. This will pop up a bunch later. And then, boom, into verse 1. Here we've got a bunch more interesting, cool sounds. A little bit different from the beginning. We've got this synth bass going that is very guitar-like to me. It sounds almost, sort of, but not quite, like a distorted guitar. And the way that it climbs up, and then sits down and climbs up. Climbs up. Climbs up again. Climbs up. Down, climbs up. And now the hi-hats are going crazy. Some of them are pitched differently. They're playing fast patterns all over the place. It even sounds like, yeah, it even sounds like some of them are panned hard to the left, some of them are panned hard to the right. What that means is, you're hearing some of these groups of those hi-hat notes playing only in your left channel, like your left earbud, your left headphone, your left speaker, whatever. And some of them only in your right. That's what I mean when I say hard panned left or hard panned right. And the hi-hats are going crazy. They're doing all sorts of stuff. The pitch is changing. The speed at which they're playing is changing. They're fucking going nuts. They're losing it. God, her voice is so beautiful. This singing here is fucking incredible. Something I gotta mention here is the very pentatonic nature of the singing. Well, before we get into that, let me demonstrate what is going on by playing what's going on the keyboard. Demonstrate what's going on harmonically, that is. Then we'll get into the pentatonic nature of the monophonic lines of both the bass line and the melody, the vocal melody. If you didn't understand a single fucking word that I just said, be patient, we'll get there, alright? I told you that I would explain everything complicated and weird that I was talking about. Alright, just bear with me, alright? So, remember, we're in A flat minor. What the fuck am I doing still wearing these glasses? What the fuck? I don't wear glasses. I've never worn glasses. You know, sometimes I like feeling smart, so I put on glasses, because glasses make me feel smart. See you later. We are in the key of A flat minor. That means the notes that you're going to be hearing in this song come from this scale. The minor scale, starting on A flat. In this genre, and in J music in general, and honestly, this extends to rock and pop and other similar forms of music from America and all over the world, when you're in a minor key, you'll find yourself spending a lot of time sitting on these chords. The 6th chord, the major 6th chord, and the major 5 chord, as well as the 1 chord. What do I mean with all these numbers? Well, I played you that scale earlier, the scale. The A flat minor scale, this is the key we're in. And if you wanted to, you could assign numbers to each of these scale degrees. These are the notes in the scale. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then once we get here, 8. That's the same pitch class as the note we started on, so whatever, we can ignore that. 8, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 distinct scale degrees in this scale, A flat minor. When I say 1 chord, I'm talking about the triad that we build when we take notes from the scale. So remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starting on the first scale degree, go up a third, you go up a third, to get to another note in this scale, we go here, and then you go up a perfect 5th, go here, and then you combine all those notes together. Boom. Using just the notes from that scale, we've constructed a chord. This is an A flat minor chord, and in the key of A flat minor, this is the 1 chord. So named because the root, the lowest note, is the 1st scale degree, the 1 of this scale. Alright? Let's repeat that process for the 6th scale degree. Let's go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we've got 6. And let's pluck some notes out of this scale. We had this one, we had this one, and we had this one. So, if we shift these up an octave, or we could just continue going up, like... Pluck these out, this one, and the root note is on the 6th scale degree. We get F flat major. This is the 6th chord in the key of A flat minor. There's a 6th chord. So once again, all we did was start on the 6th scale degree, pick notes from the scale, pick scale degrees, choose the one that was up a third, that's this one, and then choose the one that was up a 5th, that one. and we put them all together, and we get an F flat major chord. This is an F flat major triad because there are 3 different pitch classes in it. There. 1, 2, 3. Can you count? I hope you can. If you can't count, the rest of this video is going to be a real doozy for you. So we had our 1 chord, and we have our 6 chord. They're all triads. And then we have a 5 chord. So let's go to the 5th scale degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And keep going up. And you get this chord, an E flat minor triad. So for you eagle-eyed and what's an animal that has good hearing? Shit, I don't know. Dog. Maybe. Dog, right? For you eagle-eyed and dog-eared viewers out there, you might have noticed that earlier when I was playing the 5 chord, I was playing this. This chord. E flat, G, B flat. So why am I playing this one now? This is the one that we got when we picked notes from the scale, from the A flat minor scale. But I was playing this earlier. So what gives? Why'd I make that change? And why are they different? Well, this one's an E flat minor triad. This one is an E flat major triad. And it is common practice to, when you're playing in a minor key, take the 5 chord, which would be minor if all we did was choose notes from the scale, to take the 5 chord and turn it into a major triad by raising what is this? The middle note, by raising the note that is a third above the root, raising it a half step, turning it into a major triad. That is common practice because some men with powdered wigs from Western Europe hundreds of years ago found it sounded very nice when you resolved this in the key of A flat minor down to the 1 minor chord. This 5 major triad down to the 1 minor triad. And it does sound good. Maybe those old white men from Western Europe were onto something. But ever since then, ever since they were like, hey, this sounds good, let's use this harmonic choice everywhere. All music in the modern age, not all music, but a lot of music in the modern age that builds off of those principles from the common practice period, the period of time in which those Western Europeans were alive, we call today the common practice period. So it's like 1700s, 1800s, around then in Western Europe. Ever since then, all the music that builds off of the harmonic foundation set up by the common practice period adopts this way of doing things. Turning this, the minor 5 chord, into a major 5 chord, and resolving it via 5-1 down to the 1 chord, the home chord. And the justification for this was because doing this sounds good, and it makes you sound like you're resolving something. You're going home. You're moving from somewhere where there's a lot of tension. You're in the key of A flat minor. That has a lot of tension in the key of A flat minor. You're resolving home. That sounds more final. Sounds more at peace. And yeah, I agree mostly. Makes sense to me, and it does sound good. So that's how they did it, and that has since become a very standard, very commonplace harmonic choice. Something I want to remind you of is, it goes this way with a lot of things in music and art in general. Musicians will do something, and musicians will like it, and the people who are listening, audiences, and the rest of culture at large will come to appreciate it and like it, and then start to expect it. And because they expect it, musicians start doing it more. Musicians doing it more causes more listeners to expect it, and this feedback loop continues. Like, we come to like and appreciate the way something sounds because we've grown to expect it. And the reason that we have come to expect this thing, the way something sounds, is because we like how it sounds. This is how practices in music and art and artistic choices can reinforce themselves and become standard practice, become norms in a genre or form of art. You just give it time, and it snowballs. We've seen this all throughout history. But I want to remind you that you can justify artistic choices using music theory or historical precedent. You can spend a lot of time looking for justifications for your creative choices that way. But you can also just say, I made this creative choice, or I made this choice in my music because I liked the way it sounded, and it sounded good. And both are equally valid. In fact, I might even say the second one is more valid, though I don't want to get too deep into that. At the end of the day, music theory is a way to look at music, and music history and historical precedent, and what people have done in the past is a huge part of music theory. Like, music theory, what we call music theory today, is built on the choices that these people from the past made. They are great educational tools. They are great things to use to communicate your idea, your musical idea, to another musician. And they can help you make great choices and make music that sounds good. But at the end of the day, the deciding factor in all of this should be your ear. If you like how something sounds, go for it. You don't need music theory or music history to tell you what to do. If you're making music and you do something, and you like the way it sounds, fucking go for it. Jeez, we got really off track. Where the hell are we? We were going over the harmonies here. Yeah. So, A flat minor, the 1 chord, 6 chord, and major 5 chord. When you're in the minor key, in the genres that I mentioned before, what seems like a fucking hour ago, I don't know how long I was talking, you often spend a lot of time on the 1 chord, the 6 chord, and the 5 chord. And that's exactly what we're doing here. It goes like the 1 chord, the 6 chord, and then the 5 chord, and then again. And then onwards. So here, the first part of verse 1, it's just 1, and then 6, and then 5. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I said I was going to talk about the pentatonic nature of the lines going on here, so it's about time I get to that. First, let's talk about the pentatonic scale and what the fuck that is. Okay, the pentatonic scale. Penta meaning 5, tonic meaning tones. There are 5 tones in it. When you have a minor scale, like the one we have here, the A flat minor scale, it's the key of this tune. God damn it, I fucked that up. When you have a minor scale, you can arrive at a minor pentatonic scale by choosing the 1, the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 7th scale degrees from that minor scale. The major and minor pentatonic scales both sound great if you just noodle around in them in a given key. Here, I'm just playing up and down the A flat minor pentatonic scale, and nothing sounds terribly dissonant. Anyway, the A flat minor pentatonic scale has those notes in it, and then repeat as you ascend. The vocal melody that's going on right here in verse 1 is very pentatonic in nature. What I mean by that is, the vocal melody that's going on here in verse 1 is just using notes from the A flat minor pentatonic scale. Recognize all those notes? 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 3, 7, 1, 5. And then you do that again. And then 5, 7, 4, 4, 5, 4, 5, 1. They're all notes from the pentatonic scale. That's what I mean when I say the vocal melody is very pentatonic in nature. It's all just the pentatonic scale. And same thing with the bass line, though it's a little bit harder to hear. Let's try and play it, or something approximating it, because I don't know if I'll be able to do it. That last part went like, or something like that. But anyway, those notes are all from the pentatonic scale too, the A flat minor pentatonic scale. 1, 5, 7, 5, and then down here. Even though it dips outside a little bit, find these notes, I think, it goes right back to 4, 5, 7, 1. And then here, not so much. But a lot of the bass line is. It revolves around the A flat minor pentatonic scale. Now, the pentatonic scale has been used everywhere, throughout all time periods, in all styles. Fucking, it just sounds good. So everybody has been using it, alright? Anybody who's been using 12-tone equal temperament and has the concept of scales in their culture's music has probably stumbled onto the concept of a minor pentatonic scale and been like, that sounds cool. Let's play using it. And this is especially true in music from East Asia. The music of China, Korea, Japan, various Southeast Asian nations also. The pentatonic scale, the minor pentatonic scale in particular, has a long, storied history of being used extensively in East Asian music. And not just East Asian music, like music from the entirety of Asia that is east of, like, fucking something longitude. Let's look up Google Maps. I'm gonna Google Maps this. Google Maps doesn't have longitude? Yeah, what I mean when I say East Asia historically is, like, any country east of 75 degrees east. That's what I mean. In classic fashion, just like I did in the previous analysis video, I said some stuff during my original recording and completely messed it up, so I'm re-recording this part to be more accurate. This part is a closer look at a couple of seemingly unrelated topics. Pentatonic scales, gamelan, a musical tradition from Indonesia. Gamelan? Gamelan? Gamelan?
Gamelan.
Gamelan. I'm trying my hardest. Gamelan, a musical tradition from Indonesia, and the music of Claude Debussy, my favorite common practice period composer. In fact, these topics are all kinda related, but we'll get to that later. Pentatonic scales. In most of the popular music we hear today in the English-speaking world, we hear the major and minor pentatonic scales used quite a lot. The reason for this is because they sound good. None of the notes in the scale sound particularly dissonant when you're just chilling in the key you're in. Let's take, for example, the key of E-flat minor. The E-flat minor pentatonic scale would look like this. All the black keys. E-flat, G-flat, A-flat, B-flat, D-flat. No matter where I am in E-flat minor, if I'm playing diatonically, playing diatonic harmony, if I use the E-flat minor pentatonic scale, nothing will sound out of place. And because it all sounds very pleasing, because all the notes in these pentatonic scales sound pleasing, wherever your diatonic harmony may lead you in the key, we use these scales a lot. It just sounds good. It just works. The minor pentatonic scale and the major pentatonic scale contain the same notes. They just start from different places. For instance, the A minor pentatonic scale, A, C, D, E, G, and the C major pentatonic scale, C, D, E, G, A, contain the same notes. They just start in different places. When melodies use the pentatonic scale, they sound simple and sweet. In Idol, the verse melody and the chorus melody sound simple and sweet, and, crucially, catchy. When something is simple and sweet, it has an easier time becoming catchy. Your brain has an easier time latching onto it, and it sticks there. As I stated earlier, the pentatonic scale is used a lot in East Asian music. And here in the West, pentatonic scales have become a very popular, almost trite, musical device used to suggest a vaguely East Asian atmosphere. In certain contexts, and with some uses, it sounds really stupid. But when it's purposeful, earnest, and executed strongly and effectively, it works, and it sounds fucking good. As an example, take a very well-known, very beautiful composition for piano by Claude Debussy, the first movement in a suite of 3 movements, Pagode from Estampe.
Pagode. Pagode. Estampe. Estampe.
Take a short listen. There's that prominent use of the A-flat minor pentatonic scale right up front. The title of the movement, Pagode, meaning pagodas, conjures up images of East Asia. For me personally, the pentatonic runs ascending and descending cause me to imagine shimmering rain, humid air, colorful, ornate structures. As someone who's gone back to mainland China plenty of times and is mainland Chinese to visit family and whatnot, that's just my personal connection and what I imagine when I hear this. Gamelan is a traditional form of music from Indonesia, played in an ensemble largely comprised of percussion instruments, some pitched and some unpitched, and also sometimes including vocals and a couple of other instruments. Gamelan slendro, popular with the common people, uses slendro tuning, splitting the octave into 5 parts. You get a scale that sounds like this.
That's number 1 again.
The slendro scale is a pentatonic scale, not the same as the minor pentatonic that we've been talking about, but it is a pentatonic scale nonetheless. The attitude among historians and scholars who studied Debussy was, for a while, that Debussy likely heard a traveling gamelan ensemble at a World's Fair in Paris, the Paris Exposition of 1889, and was inspired by what he heard, and channeled that inspiration he took from the music of the East in his future compositions. Folks often point to his prominent use of the major and minor pentatonic scales, as well as other hallmarks of his style, like his disregard for functional harmony and his trademark sonorous resonant textures, as evidence for this idea. Debussy was associated with, even at the forefront of, the Impressionist movement in music, a movement which, like its counterpart in painting, focused on the impression of a composition more than its intricacies. Impression over intricacy. I just came up with that right now. I like how that sounds. Dude, I cooked. I'm so nice with it. Shifting the focus away from sharply defined melodic and harmonic ideas and figures, but not, like, totally disregarding them. But shifting the focus towards textures, colors, general feelings, and evocative imagery. Like I said, it's about the general impression that a composition imparts upon you. He actually rejected this label during his lifetime, when people called his music impressionist. But now that he's dead, the term has stuck and there's pretty much nothing anyone can do about it. But if you listen to Debussy's music, you can hear why the term impressionism stuck. When listening to Debussy, I feel like I'm engaging with a painting awash with color. The beautiful, rich textures are like blurry, fuzzy blends of complementary hues. Debussy paints with a wide brush, and the brush smears color across the canvas. Okay, enough waxing poetic. In college, during a music course I took, which I will again mention later on in the next editor's note about the lament bass, I did a little bit of cursory research on Debussy's life and compositions, and the whole gamelan inspiration thing is what I got from reading up on him. Most of the information you've heard from me thus far is stuff that I remember from doing this project as I was taking that course. But upon doing some more investigation recently, I've been made aware of the presence of a dissenting, or at least sharply qualifying, scholarly opinion that Debussy's exposure to gamelan at the 1889 Paris Exposition served more as a confirmation, rather than a source of inspiration. From A Guide to the Gamelan by Neil Sorel, the assumption is that, because Debussy fell in love with gamelan music, he felt compelled to consummate the discovery by imitating it in his own compositions. If he ever did anything so obvious and naive, it would be most likely in immature pieces of his post-Rome, post-Bayreuth period of exploration and experimentation. It is pointless to go through the famous music of his maturity, looking for traces of gamelan like the fossilized footprints of some rare animal. The better the fusion, the less identifiable the constituents. The greater the composer, the less likely such marks are to show, for the simple reason that they have been completely assimilated within the style. It could be argued that Debussy's best music shows no influence of Javanese gamelan at all. The key word is influence, with a suggestion of bringing about a change of course. With Debussy, a much more fruitful word would be confirmation. It seems far more plausible that what he heard in 1889 confirmed what he had, at least subconsciously, always felt about music, and this experience went far deeper than a desire to imitate something new and exotic. Sorel suggests that Debussy's encounter with Javanese gamelan in 1889 was to him a confirmation of the direction his music was already headed in. Hearing gamelan made him go, "Yep, that's what I'm going for. That's what I've been saying," rather than, "Oh sweet, that's totally new and cool, let me try doing that too." According to Sorel, Debussy's work and gamelan both show a new musical domain beyond the constraints of Western classical tonality. Anyone familiar with Debussy's work would more or less agree. Key identifying aspects of Debussy's greatest works include explorations of resonating, overlapping, combining overtones, often achieving this by using pedal points and heavy usage of the sustain pedal in other ways. Moving away from functional harmony, complex chords that point nowhere, pentatonic, hexatonic, and other even less common scales. lush, colorful, melodic textures. Sorel argues that Debussy was already moving in this direction. He was impressed with the gamelan, definitely a fan of it, definitely appreciated it, and wrote glowingly of it. But it didn't blow his mind and change the trajectory of his musical style. Sorel also points out that the pentatonic scale, specifically the minor pentatonic, is kind of everywhere. Very common in Europe and throughout the rest of the world, so we can't be certain that seeing the pentatonic scale in Debussy's music is for sure a sign of inspiration from gamelan. He remarks that Debussy may as well have been inspired by the local church bells. You know, church bells are commonly arranged to play major pentatonic melodies. In a similar vein, Henry Spiller writes of this historical event, Debussy's encounter with gamelan at the 1889 Paris Exposition, in his book, Gamelan, The Traditional Sounds of Indonesia. In a similarly qualifying, or skeptical tone, he makes this important clarification. Among modern fans of European classical music, Debussy's encounter with Javanese gamelan music at the 1889 Paris Exposition is the stuff of legend. While it is not clear exactly how deeply he delved into the inner workings of gamelan music, the sounds he heard had a definite effect on his compositional thinking. It is important to remember, however, that Debussy's fascination with the timbres and sonorities of Javanese gamelan music had nothing to do with the music's actual meaning. Rather, he found the sounds, excised from the web of social significance which gave them their form, to fit serendipitously into his own social and aesthetic world. Spiller reminds us that Debussy just liked the sounds and textures and timbres he was hearing. He almost definitely didn't understand the social and cultural significance behind it all. He just liked what he was hearing. It's like walking into a cathedral and hearing the massive church organ playing with the choir during the Mass on Easter Sunday, and not knowing anything about Catholicism, or the sacred nature of the service, or about the bread, or the wine, or the whatever, and then walking out of the cathedral and thinking, damn, that big instrument sounded cool. What's it called? An organ? I'm gonna make a trap beat using an organ. What I'm getting from both of these texts combined is that Debussy appreciated gamelan, most certainly, but to him it was just something off to the side to look at and go, yep, that's cool. He did not immerse himself in it as a culturally significant Indonesian musical tradition, and he was not strictly inspired by it, but rather thought, I like what they're doing. I like what I'm hearing. I've been doing something similar. This sounds good. Okay, let's wrap it up. Closing thoughts. This example of Debussy and gamelan music is just one example that's special to me, and one that I remember particularly fondly, because it's something that I looked into when I was in college, taking that course I was talking about. I even intended to join the gamelan ensemble at my university. Then COVID-19 happened. I remember me and the head of the gamelan ensemble emailing back and forth at the beginning of the pandemic, and I said, "It's a shame music ensembles are cancelled this quarter. I'll be sure to enroll again in 3 months when classes are back in person again." And he said, "Sounds good. I look forward to it." And then 3 months became 24 months. And that was that. By the way, guess who the head of the ensemble was? Henry Spiller, author of the book I just cited. Spiller is Professor Emeritus of Ethnomusicology at the University of California, Davis. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble about something I was interested in, which happens to be only slightly related to the rest of this video. Now we can move on. So, the vocals are very pentatonic. The bass line is very pentatonic. Let's move on! Okay, here, something quite cool is going on in the bass line, and is being doubled in the choir vocals that are up above everything. Okay, listen to the bass line. Hear that in the bass line? Hear that? It's going like... You hear the bass line descending by half steps, right? Wait. Hear that? This is a common choice that, again, don't quote me on this. This is another harmonic choice that has roots in the common practice period, like many of the harmonic choices that we make today. But this bass descending by half steps is called a lament bass. There was this opera or some composition from a long time ago, and there was this character in it named Dido, and there was this piece or segment of a piece or something called Dido's Lament, and the bass line in that part of the composition descended by half steps. This bass line descending by half steps is now a common choice that you hear everywhere. It is commonly used to evoke feelings of despair or the closeness of death. I'm pretty sure that was how it was used in Dido's Lament, and when you hear it nowadays, that's often what it's used for too. See, I don't actually know any common practice period compositions that use the lament bass in this way, but I do know a song from way more recently that I bet a lot of you will recognize too, alright? It goes a little something like this. Yes, and I'm being serious. The part I'm talking about is the second half of the first verse, where it goes like... right there. That little descending section. And you know, and I know, that this song is most definitely about despair and the closeness of death, and how everything comes tumbling down. So, there's the lament bass, and it's also here. Right there. And even without knowing that historical context, the way it was used in the common practice period, and the way that it's commonly used today, that descending bass line still gives me a feeling that something is off, that something is something sinister is going on. That there's something to be wary of. And so when that descending bass by half steps is used in this song, I get that same feeling. Like, something's going on, something isn't right. I should be afraid. So, a feeling of despair, or of hopelessness, or a feeling like something sinister is going on. It all ties together. It's all forms of unwanted emotions, right? And something tells me that the composers knew what they were doing. Let me switch off of this frame so I don't get flagged for TOS. Something tells me that the composers knew what they were doing when they chose to use this here. Knowing the feeling that it gives people when they listen. This is why composers make musical choices and use certain techniques. Because of the feeling they want to evoke. The emotion they want to impart upon whoever's listening. That is a huge reason, at least. Yo, I am back for another editor's note. This one won't take long. We're just going to talk a little bit more about the lament bass. I'm going to clarify a little bit of the stuff I said earlier, because the last thing I want to do is leave you with misinformation. And then we're going to listen to some examples together. First up, the piece and the composer and all that stuff that I mentioned earlier when I was at the piano. I was talking about the 17th century opera, Dido and Aeneas, by Henry Purcell. This descending bass line appears in the closing aria, titled Dido's Lament. I will post a link in the description to a particularly good recording of the piece. You should go listen to it. I'm not really a huge fan of opera, but if you listen to it, like I told you to, I think you'll agree that this performance is really beautiful, haunting, transcendent, just really fucking good, absolutely beautiful. Let's listen to a few more examples of this kind of descending chromatic instrumental action, from both the common practice period and the modern day. I'll have to keep the examples really short because otherwise YouTube's content ID system will blow up my entire neighborhood. I'll also play through the examples. Or something like that. But the lament bass is very apparent. 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Whole measure. 5, 6. Down right there. I forget how it goes past that, but you hear, again, all I'm trying to demonstrate is that lament bass. Okay, let's do 2 more examples from less than 200 years ago. This one goes like... Flat 9 there, and then dominant. Sharp 5 there. Again, the bass is descending very slowly, and in split up parts. And then it splits and goes here. And then it keeps descending. Back to. Bill Evans is playing the well-known standard, My Funny Valentine. This one, wow, they're all in C minor. This one's in C minor also. God, I'm gonna try my best. But I'm definitely not doing Bill Evans' harmonic brilliance any justice. That's what I think is going on. I'm just making stuff up at this point. Whatever, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is the descending bass line. C, to B, and then to B flat, and then to A, and then to A flat, and then whatever. I actually learned about the lament bass in my first year of college. I took a course about music from the Common Practice period, and the lament bass was touched on, as well as the opera Dido and Aeneas. I actually have saved all of my notes and notebooks and all physical materials from all 4 years of my university education in cardboard boxes. So, during the course of making this video, I went digging back through one of those boxes, and I found my old notes from this course. Most of the info you heard in this editor's note came straight from my course notes. Some more info from my notes. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here we go. Dido's lament is made of a recitative and an aria. The recitative sets the stage for the aria in a speech-like singing manner. The aria is the main solo song that shows the singer's skill and advances the opera's plot. The music reflects the meaning of the words by being miserable, having a sad tone. Purcell used a chromatic descending bass line to magnify the feeling of despair and loss. The music appears homophonic in the recitative. One main voice, one accompanying voice. It gets polyphonic in the aria. Good notes, man. Good notes. Thank you. Thank you, Raymond from February 6, 2019. I took good notes. The date is here. It's on the top right corner of the previous page, because I started the Dido's Lament is part on the next page. I was never a music major, mind you. I never studied music academically with much rigor or in much depth. I just like music. I hope all that stuff about the lament bass and the despair and the hopelessness and the closeness of death and the example with that one song from Evangelion, and the example here with the descending bass line and the feeling of something sinister, something closing in. I hope that all made sense, right? See, that's the thing with me. You start out and you think that I'm saying random shit and it doesn't make any sense, but then you start to let me cook, and you start listening a little more closely, and then you realize it all comes together, and I show you some examples, and suddenly it all makes sense, right? Right? That's right. You understand, don't you? Okay, let's move on. Forgot to mention the choir that is doubling that part. The choir part is up here. Ah, it seems like it's playing something a little bit different. So that's what the choir sounds like it's doing to me. So for the most part, the choir is doubling the motion by half step that the bass line is doing, but it goes a little further. And it goes back up and then back up here. And this choice to use vocals from large groups of people to complement whatever's going on in the music. You know, we had these choir vocals that were here, descending by half step. We had the chants and the shouts that were earlier. And there are some chants and shouts that are going to come up in the next section, the pre-chorus. All of this is not without reason. Again, I haven't seen the show, but using what I know about the show, which is very little, I'm going to try and make an educated guess on what the show is about. Because this song is the opening for the show. It was made for the purposes of this show. So it's all relevant and it all matters musically. I'm thinking that this show is about the life of an idol, maybe, and the relationship between an idol and their fans. So the choice to use vocals from a crowd, chanting from a crowd, vocals from a large choir, it all ties in. It all makes sense together. Crowds of fans, people chanting, all that stuff. It all works together. And the hi-hats are still going crazy there. You know, the fast groups are coming in and out, and the pitch is going up, and the pitch is going down. And they're still alternating between being hard pan left and hard pan right. And then suddenly everything is gone. The hi-hats are gone. The choir vocals are gone. The drums are playing a much more sparse pattern. A much sparser pattern, excuse me. And the sub bass is gone too. That very guitar-like distorted saw bass that was playing earlier. Everything gone. All that's left is piano and some drums and some chanting. So now we're left with a very sparse, very empty texture, in stark contrast to the previous sections, to what was going on at the very beginning and the previous section, the first verse. Boom! Everything gone. There's contrast between these sections. Huge contrast. Music isn't interesting without contrast. And hearing this piano makes me think, I am 99% sure that Yoasobi uses the Ableton stock grand piano, the instrument rack that comes with Ableton Live. I'm 99% sure this is the case. I'm 1% sure that I'm losing my fucking marbles, but I swear it's gotta be the stock Ableton grand piano. Ever since I heard Racing Into the Night a few years ago, and I heard that piano come in really heavily, I was like, it has to be the Ableton stock grand piano, because it has such a unique timbre that's burned into my mind because I've messed around with it and I've produced with it so often and so much. It's the Ableton stock grand piano sound. That's just how it sounds. And I heard it in Racing Into the Night, and I'm hearing it here. So we've got a 4 on the 4 drum pattern with the kick, 4, and a snare on 2 and 4. And here it all changes. The 4 on the 4 kick is gone. And now the kick rhythm complements the rhythm of the vocals from the singer. Hear that? It's matching up with the syllables in the words that the singer sings. So that's a cool little thing going on there. And the singer's vocal performance here is still stellar, splendid, amazing. I like that very short brush through the chimes that they just did to lead us into the next section as most of the thick texture drops out. And then here the bass comes back. Playing some cool rhythms. And earlier the kick was following the rhythm of the vocals, but now the 4 on the 4 kick is back. It's all building tension, all building up to what's coming next. Ooh, that's another thing that I just noticed. What takes the place of the snare here, it's just the kick and the snare, is a clap. A big resounding clap sound effect. And it's layered with a chant from a crowd. But you'll notice that in the previous section, the snare was like a trap snare. It's quite high pitched. It has a very fast release. It's just in and then it cuts out. That's what I mean by trap snare, like a snare used in trap music. Same with the kick. The kick is very short. It just punches in and then it's gone. Honestly, the hats too. The hats are also trap hats because they do this stuff with hi-hats a lot. They be changing the pitch and they do fast groupings thrown in every once in a while. So like all the drums here, and honestly throughout the entire beginning section too, like all throughout the verse and all through here, they're all trap drums. Hello again, I am back for another editor's note. I keep mentioning trap drums. Well, I don't keep mentioning it, but I mentioned it twice in this video so far, I think. I don't know. But that's what the drums in this song are most of the time. And I think the drums in this song deserve to be talked about a little bit more. I want to talk about their sound profile. That's what they sound like, and what kinds of stuff they evoke in your mind. How we got here historically, and how they allow the song to serve a more meta purpose. The drum sounds vary a little bit throughout this song. We've got some marching snares here, playing triplets, very march-like. Here we've got a deep, powerful, resounding 808 kick, coupled with a piece of pitched percussion, which for the longest time I thought was a sample of a bottle or a bell. But recently I realized that it's an 808 cowbell. It sounds exactly like an 808 cowbell to me now. And most of the time, throughout most of the song, we have trap drums, complex, fast hi-hat patterns, and a short, somewhat punchy snare and kick. First, let's go somewhere completely different. Let me play you a different song by Yoasobi that's also very popular, just so we can compare and contrast how the drums sound. This is... I'm not gonna bother saying the name of the song, you probably know it. You paid attention to the drums, right? Most of the time, it's a standard rock groove, a 4 on the 4 kick. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 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 with a hi-hat sizzle on the and. With a very clappy snare and a thumpy short kick. That snare sounds like a... It's a groove that's very common in rock and dance music, like EDM, electronic dance music. Now compare that with the drums from Idol. There's lots of hi-hat activity. There's a lot going on in the hi-hats. Almost too much. There's a lot of information there. There's a short, clicky snare drum that's more of a ch sound. It's much clickier and much noisier than a typical boom-bap snare from older hip-hop that would be more of a k sound. I get a modern hip-hop feel, and we'll talk more about that later. The drums taken as a whole, the timbre, the way they sound, the groove they're playing, how fast or slow, how loud or soft, even ignoring the rest of whatever song the drums are part of. Just the drums by themselves, taken as a whole. They make you feel a lot. They tell you a lot. There's so much to think about when you hear drums. There's a lot of historical context and genre-specific context. There's a lot of mood and emotional quality that can be expressed through dynamics and speed and feel. Like, take this drum groove, for example. It's super chill, right? It's really relaxed. I hear this and I think bossa nova, because I hear the kick doing the one, boom, 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 and the side stick on the snare, the k. It's so chill. It's so relaxed. It's beautiful. This is pretty much your standard bossa nova drum groove. Played at low volume, played very relaxed, with the kick going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Boom, 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 3. And the right hand going on the ride cymbal and the left hand doing a side stick on the snare to get that click sound. Then for a completely different mood, we've got this. Immediately I hear this and I think Latin music. Afro-Cuban, maybe. Do you hear that clave? In this case it might be a woodblock, but it's outlining the clave rhythm. That's the da 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 da. This is a 2-3 rumba clave. There's 2 in front and 3 following. Da 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 da. 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3. Yeah, that's a 2-3 rumba clave. I hear this and I'm getting ready to dance. Like, holy shit, bro. There's a lot of different percussion instruments going. There's the shaker on the 1s and 3s. In the background, we've got congas or bongos. One of them's low, one of them's high. I can't remember what's what, but that's the drums played with your hands. That one in the background. Congas or bongos, one of the two. And of course the clave or the woodblock playing the 2-3 rumba clave. 2 in front, 3 following. Also, here's another example of the clave rhythm that maybe you folks know. This is by Nujabes. Here it's titled Transcendence. I've always known it as Kujaku. Hear that clave rhythm? And this one is being played on an actual, on a set of claves, not a woodblock. I'm pretty sure. That clave, that rhythm, is a fundamental element of the rhythm section in Latin music. Maybe I'll talk about Latin percussion in a future video. I'm not an expert on it, but I know a little bit about jazz and Latin music and how they intersect in Latin jazz. And I've been a percussionist for over a decade, so it's not like I have nothing to add. I hear this song and I'm also getting ready to move. Just the percussion. The hi-hats, playing a syncopated rhythm. And here we've also got the set of Latin percussion. We've got the hand drums, the clave, like I mentioned earlier, and then the rest of the sampled kit, the drum machine, comes in. And it's swinging. The hats are playing a swung pattern. And now for something completely different. Super different, totally different. This is bumping, energetic dance music. The beat is very clearly outlined with that 4 on the floor. Boom, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The beat is very clearly outlined and never lost. This also makes me want to dance, but in a different way. You know what I mean? And it's just like the rock groove that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Into the Night, but instead of a hi-hat sizzle on the ands, on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, there is a very synthesized, very digital scraping sound. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The snare here is very clappy, as is common of a lot of electronic dance music. Okay, enough talking about examples. We're getting to my first point of this editor's note. The drums tell you a lot. The timbre and the groove and the speed and the dynamics, they influence how you feel a lot. Drums in many styles of modern music are the rhythmic foundation that everything else is built upon. They are important, not just because they keep time, but also because they shape how you think and how you feel about the music you're listening to, way more than you realize. They're not just the thing in the background that you tap your foot along to. They're a crucially important part of the music that you'd better pay attention to, because they're saying a lot. Okay, onwards to my second topic, about the trap drums. This is gonna be a long editor's note, I can already tell. The way I think about drums sometimes is to listen to what I call sound profiles. Drum sounds that seem to fit together to me, And I think about the characteristics that I can extract from this group of drum samples or drum sounds that fit together, and think about what genre they remind me of, what mood or emotional quality they impart upon me, what kind of attack or release or resonance or pitch, or any sort of auditory aspect they have. That's all stuff you can think about. And it's stuff that I think about. I kinda touched on this a minute ago when I talked about what the drums make you think about, but we'll get deeper into it now. When I say trap drums, I'm talking about the kind of drum sounds you hear all over modern hip-hop.
This what I feel like. Yeah. Not a mule. Hey. Dabbing on them like the usual. Damn. Magic with the brick do voodoo. Magic. Courtside with a bat.
Taking beams. Yeah. Go to those extremes. Let's go. Parliament. Calamari wins. Yeah.
All of these hoes I made off records I produce. I might take all my exes and put them all in a group. You think the Bay gon' let you disrespect Pop, nigga? I think that Oakland show gon' be your last stop, nigga.
So now when I hear drums that sound like this elsewhere, I think of trap. I think of trap music. These drums are usually synthesized, often coming from a drum machine or a sample pack, and then pretty much always they get placed on a grid in a digital audio workstation, and the drum part is constructed on the grid. There's lots of emphasis on the hi-hats, complex, quick patterns, sometimes groups of sixteenths or sextuplets, hat sizzles or hat barks here and there. There's a lot of stuff going on with the hi-hats in trap music. Powerful drums. The snare and the kick are very strong. The snare is usually short and punchy. The kick may be similarly short or sustained and resonant. If it's sustained and resonant, we call that an 808 kick. Sometimes the feeling I get is dark and moody, yet energetic and driving, like pushing forward constantly. Sometimes I think lighthearted, especially when I listen to the tinkling hats. But that mood often depends on other elements of the song that I'm listening to. And if you've listened to a fair amount of hip-hop, you know that this sound becoming super popular is a more recent thing. Recent as in 2010s onward. Before this, hip-hop sounded more like this.
Stern, firm, and young with a laid-back tongue. The aim is to succeed and achieve at 21.
Yeah, alright. To everybody in Queens, the foundation. The world is yours. To everybody up.
Word to the Father and Mother Earth, seeking everlasting life through this hell for what it's worth.
So nasty that it's probably somewhat of a travesty having me.
Hand ciphers with Yeezy before his mouth wired, before his jaw shattered, climbing up the Lord's ladder.
Just now I played you a bunch of examples from various eras and various styles from before the 2010s. There's a lot of disparate sound profiles all hitting us, right? There's a lot of different stuff happening. There are some calmer drum tracks. There's a lot of different timbres of kicks and snares. The presence of scratching, which is a percussive and rhythmic element that came from hip-hop. There are samples of drum fills that go all around the kit, but what's in common between all of these examples and their drums' sound profiles is that they sound raw, acoustic, imperfect, and a little dirty, even. That's because they're sampled. These beats were made by sampling older music, drum tracks played and recorded by humans from decades prior, and creating a new beat, a new production from it. And most hip-hop that today we'd call old or older sounding, or type of shit old heads listen to, or what have you, was produced this way, by going in search of pre-existing music, often vinyl records of jazz or funk or R&B or soul, and cutting and splicing parts of it to render something new. Usually cutting and splicing drum breaks, but sometimes cutting and splicing other parts, like instrumental parts, instrumental sections, chords, short melodic fragments, even vocal samples. Producers still sample stuff. People still go crate digging today looking for old records to sample, though not as much, because of music distribution through the internet and broad shifts in the availability and popularity of various forms of consumer technology. All I'm saying is, the trap drums sound is very popular today, when a decade or two ago that just wasn't the case. Sampling was the way you produced hip-hop back then. All of this is to say that this song, Idol by Yoasobi, is very present sounding. It sounds like it came straight out of 2023. It sounds like it belongs in the modern era, from the very crisp, very clean, very shiny production, to the synthesized instruments, the saw bass, the square wave countermelody, the VST piano, The mixing and matching of drum sound profiles, old and new, but mostly trap drums. All of this is to say that this song is happening now, which all really adds to the power of the song, or the point of the music. This song was made to be the opening for a show that's all about the very tangible, very present-day reality of idols and idol culture, and the relationship between an idol and their fans. Or so I'm guessing, because I haven't seen the show and actually have no idea what it's about. But imagine if they got some classical music for the opening instead. Like, imagine they got the London Philharmonic to record a minuet by Haydn. People would be like, what the fuck? This doesn't fit at all. It doesn't make any fucking sense. That's my point. Dumbed down and oversimplified to shit, sort of. This song sounds like it is from right now, and it serves its purpose well as the opening to this show because of it. And a huge reason why is because of the drums. The trap drums, a sound profile that is, in terms of sound profiles of hip-hop drums, a recent development. The drums that give you that modern hip-hop feel. It's awesome. Here's an instance of a killer sample from a recent project. I just had to throw this in. Okay, moving on. They're all trap drums, which makes the change here during the pre-chorus to different drums a lot more noticeable. And the rhythm of the kick changing. Clap is still going, and the chant layered with it. Building tension. The chorus. And here's a technique that producers use to accentuate how hard a drop hits. That, right there. They cut to complete silence. Or mostly silence. The most important thing is filtering out all of the sub-bass frequencies right before you want some heavy bass to kick in. So you hear there, right before the drop hits for the chorus, there was a brief moment of no sub-bass, no low-end notes, nothing down here. And the reason producers do this is because that brief moment of complete lack of low-end causes the ensuing low-end that's going to hit during the drop to hit so much harder. Because the bass was there, and then it's gone, and then the audience is like, where'd the bass go, huh? And then the bass comes in at the drop, and it sweeps them off their feet. It just kicks them in the chest and knocks them over. Boom! There it is. Why don't I show you what I mean with some other examples? Once again, we've got a bass going, playing some notes, and then cuts out soon, and then just comes back right at the chorus for that drop. So I was watching this video the other day, and wouldn't you know it, Larnell Lewis, an incredibly skilled drummer, is talking about exactly what I'm talking about. So why don't you listen to his perspective on it?
That feeling of the bottom end being present and then being removed is something that happens in music a lot. It happens in arrangements. It happens in production. It happens with DJs, where they just kind of like, you know, and then there's a huge rise, and then
it's building all this tension.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to pee, so give me a second. That soju's catching up with me. Okay, I'm gonna take a break here. Get up and stretch my legs, because I've been sitting for a while. It's a good place to put the intermission. You should get up and stretch your legs too. It's a good habit to get into. You can skip this intermission if you want, but you might also not want to skip it, because I'm gonna talk about a bunch of stuff that might be potentially interesting, and also some stuff that might not be interesting. If you like this video, if you like the previous video in the series, and if you want to see more of this stuff, hit my fucking PayPal. That's a very easy way to let me know that you appreciate what I'm doing, and it'll tell me to keep going. I have a feeling I'm gonna be here for quite a while longer. I'm able to talk about this stuff forever. If you just let me keep going, this video might end up being twice as long as it is right now. I can just talk for way too long. I was kind of like this in the previous video, the one about synthesis, and that was a super long one, but in that one I also had to break down what was going on in the video. The video was intense. The video and associated visualizer that came out with the song. So there was more to dissect there. So this one is going to be shorter, almost definitely. I've got less to cover. See, that's the problem with me when it comes to talking about a song that I like, and when I'm being supercharged by an aqueous solution of ethyl alcohol. I can just talk about it for forever and ever, and just keep going for way too long. A long time ago, I had mentioned that I would like to make this a series. And I still want to. It's just that this YouTube shit isn't my priority. I've got other shit going on in my life. But I really enjoy deeply dissecting pieces of music that I really like. So, going forward, the plan is for us to analyze more Japanese music. J-music. That's music from rhythm games, music from anime, so openings and endings and stuff like that. J-rock, J-pop, various other tunes I like. It doesn't even need to be J-music, but a lot of it will be. Because, in my view, this is a genre of music that doesn't get that much deep analytical attention as other genres do. But it deserves to be listened to closely and critically, because there's a lot of stuff that I like that's going on in this music. Every tune is a deep well, and you can dive in and swim for hours. It all just depends on how brave you are, and how far you're willing to go, how deep you're willing to go, and how closely you're willing to listen. This wasn't a style or genre of music that just 5 years ago I would have known that I would have come to appreciate this much. Me liking this kind of music is a pretty recent thing. I have a handful of friends from college to thank for that, who had various ways of getting me deeper into this stuff, mostly unintentionally. But anime openings, music from rhythm games, shit's dope, dude. A shitload of anime openings that I love. I haven't even seen the shows that they're from. I just like the music. The music itself is so fucking sick. Okay, intermission over. Let's continue. Let's move on. Hit the PayPal, though. Also, I gotta find my soju bottle. And here, right before the chorus hits, the drums go back to complementing the vocal rhythm. And then, boom, chorus. And the chorus is so fucking sick. Okay, there's a couple of things to note as we proceed into the chorus. First, and most notably, a key change. Upwards. We were in A flat minor, but now, for the chorus, we're in A minor. We've transitioned upwards a half step. And composers often do this in order to increase the energy, to raise the stakes, bring the energy level up. There's a lot going on here. The drums are going, keeping that 4 on the floor going. Oh look, the music video is proving me right? There's a crowd for the fans of the idol, right? I suppose, right? And the idol's like doing idol stuff for the crowd, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows because like the heart exploded, and like also here it looked like something sinister was going on, but but they're performing for the fans and the crowd and the fans and like the crowd and the fans and the crowd of fans and the Okay, Jesus, back to what we were talking about. Chorus, key change upwards. The vocals are going, and we've got a counter melody to the vocals being carried by this very plucky, very short release, very, what's the word for it? Staccato, that's the word for it. Had to think back to my Italian music theory vocabulary for a second there. The synth isn't super staccato, but it's like decently staccato. Or at least, if not staccato, it's plucky, as in, it is loud at the beginning and then it decreases. What I mean is like, when the sound starts playing, it's loud, but then the volume drops off pretty quickly. Listen to that. Yeah, it's quite plucky. The timbre of the synth sounds like it's square wave based. You can hear it most prominently when it goes up here and plays that little figure. That's the voice that I'm talking about. That's the line I'm talking about. And it's playing a continuous line that complements what the singer is singing. It's not harmonizing with the singer. It's playing a counter melody. The difference is if this square wave were harmonizing with the singer, it would be following the rhythm that the singer is singing and aiming to form a certain interval with the note that the singer is singing. So this would be harmonizing with the singer. I'm cooking this up randomly, so it'll take me a second. Yeah, something like that. If the synth were playing something like that, along with the melody that the vocalist is singing, which goes like... That was that part. That would be considered harmonization. But it's playing a countermelody because it's a completely different line with completely different melodic contour and completely different rhythm in the notes that it's playing. So listen again for that square wave synth that's going up high. And it's just going off and playing its own thing. Not to match or harmonize with what the singer is singing, but to complement it. And provide something else that's interesting that's going on separate from what the singer is singing. And harmonically, here, we're in A minor. And like I said, once again, when you're in a minor key, a lot of the time you're going to be sitting on these chords. The 6 chord, the 1, and the 5. Shit, what was it? The 1 chord, the 6, and the 5 chord. And what do you know? 1, 2, 3. Six, 5, 1. Some other shit. 1. 6, 5, 1. Some other shit. And then 6, 5, 1. Some other shit. 1, 1, 1, 1. But yeah, there's a lot of 6, there's a lot of 5, there's a lot of 1. In the beginning, it was 6, 5, 1. And this 3-note progression, 3-note? What am I fucking... I'm losing my mind. 3-note? More soju. Anyway, this 3-chord progression, 6, 5, to 1, is very common in all sorts of music, in a lot of J music, and a lot of pop and rock from like anywhere. But I'm talking about J music here. This is a J-pop song, or like an anime opening Japanese EDM kind of thing. Let me see if I can think of some examples. Oh, yeah, I got one. During the chorus, it goes like 6, major 6, dominant 7, from the 5 dominant 7, with a flat 9, and then back to the 1. Once again, it was like 6, 5. Here's another example. So here, once again, we're using major 6, a 5 dominant 7 with a flat 9, and then minor 1. 6, 5, 1. And of course, how could I forget this one? It's been a while since I've thought about that song, so not exactly ready to play it, you know? But same shit. 6. Major 6. And then 5. And then minor 1. Okay, one more example of this 6-5-1. There is the 6, 5, dominant 7, and then back to the 1. 6, 5, 1. I could probably think of more examples of this 6-5-1, this little snippet of a chord progression that appears everywhere, if I sat here and thought about it, but I'm not gonna fucking do that. We got ground to cover. So let's move on. Hi again. This will be the last editor's note, unless I change my mind for some reason. This time we're going to be talking about constructing chords and functional harmony. And I'll try to keep this one brief because this topic is deep. First things first, functional harmony. Functional meaning having a function, and harmony meaning, very generally, combining multiple sounds, multiple notes, multiple voices, or all of the above. Functional harmony is harmony in which chords, that's groupings of notes played together, have functions, meaning that they push or pull you in some direction. They direct you somewhere. We'll come back to this concept. First, let's jump right in and construct a dominant 7th chord. You heard me mention this earlier. 5 dominant 7, flat 9, and then... So why don't we start there? And actually, this is something that's been weighing on me ever since I did the last analysis video for synthesis. There was a section in which I talked about jazz chords and extensions and alterations, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about the function of a dominant 7th chord because it's important, but I didn't. So I'm doing it now, 1.5 years later. You and I can construct triads quite easily, right? We went over this before. In a certain key, let's say we're in D minor. You choose notes from the key, so in D minor, the 1 chord is the chord that starts on D, the first scale degree, and you take notes from the scale that are up a 3rd and up a 5th. You put them all together, and you get a D minor chord. That's the 1 chord, simple enough. You remember all of this. And you also remember that when we're in a minor key and we do this triad construction for the 5 chord, that's the triad that starts on the 5th scale degree of the key we're in, we often like to make that 5 chord a major 5 chord. So, we raise this C to a C sharp. You remember that too, right? It's simple enough. Enter the 7th chord, so named because we choose a note from the scale that is a 7th away from the root note and add it on top. With our D minor triad that we had earlier, let's choose a note that is a 7th away, but is still in the scale. That would be C. Take that C, add that on top of the triad we already had, and boom. There's your D minor 7 chord. Simple as that. Now let's say we do this also for our A major triad. Alright, let's choose the note that's a 7th up from A, but is still in the key of D minor. We get this. We get G. We've got a minor 7th from A to G. Put the G on top of everything else, and... Wow, what is that? Sounds a little spicy, but I like it. That, my friends, is a dominant 7th chord. A dominant 7th chord is made up of a major triad plus a minor 7th up top. You can do this anywhere. F sharp dominant 7th, F sharp major triad plus a minor 7th on top. A C dominant 7th, it's a C major triad plus a minor 7th up from C. A B flat 7 is a B flat major triad plus a minor 7th up from B. And now back to functional harmony. Functional harmony is a key aspect of the tonal system, of tonality. That's basically the kind of music theory that you think of when you think of the music theory that was developed by and describes the music of these guys from Western Europe. Open pretty much any college-level music theory textbook from the English-speaking world. You'll find that it's teaching you about tonality. Tonality is what it's all about. The vast majority of today's popular music from the English-speaking world relies on an understanding of tonality. When your strict Russian piano teacher was forcing all of that Bach and Mozart and Beethoven into your brain as a kid, you were learning music from the Common Practice period, music that observed tonality and the tonal framework. No? No one else? Just me? Am I projecting? Okay. Anyway, that's basically all you need to know about that for now, about what tonality is. In functional harmony, a dominant chord has function. The most function, in fact. The strongest function. The strongest sense of direction. In the key of D minor, the A major triad, which we call the dominant chord, the major 5 chord, has a function to resolve to a D minor triad, the tonic chord, the 1 minor chord. And this effect is strengthened by making these into 7th chords. The A7 chord now has an even stronger function, a stronger desire to resolve to the D minor 7 chord. In functional harmony, we talk a lot about tension and resolution. Chords that sound tense, or a little bit dissonant, like the notes of the chord are clashing with each other a little bit. Wish to resolve to chords that sound less tense, more relaxed. That is a principle of functional harmony. In the key of D minor, the A7 sounds tense, so we resolve somewhere less tense, the D minor 7 chord. The tonic chord has the least tension in functional harmony. The A7 sounds particularly tense because of the tritone between the C sharp and the G. This is an especially dissonant interval. Dissonant, the notes are clashing. They're almost unpleasant, but kind of musically unpleasant. Musically, tastefully unpleasant. But of course, that is a matter of personal taste. A tritone is a perfect fourth, but enlarged 1/2 step. Or a perfect fifth, shrunken by 1/2 step. Anyway, another principle of tonal harmony, when you're playing a chord and then switching to another chord, if you can switch notes without moving the notes huge distances, the transition will sound pleasant, because you ain't gotta try that hard to make the transition work. It's kind of intuitive. Move by stepwise motion if you can. If I were to do this with just triads, let's say I'm doubling the A down here in the bass in the left hand, and I've got the A, C sharp, E, the A major triad here, and the bass of course. If I were to try and move my voices as little as possible, I take the C sharp, go up to D, take this E, go to F, and the A is part of the D minor triad already, so I don't need to move the A here. And this A, I'll move it up to this D, so that I've got the root in the bass. So altogether, perfect. That sounded nice. That is resolving the major 5 chord to the minor 1 chord in D minor, following a principle of voice leading, that is, that you should try and move stuff as little as possible. If I were to do this again with the A7 chord, try and resolve this to a D minor 7 while moving everything as little as possible, I could bring the A up here to D, so we've got the root in the left hand in the bass. I could take this C sharp and move it down here to C. Typically, we call this the leading tone. It is the raised 7th scale degree. Typically, and almost always, in common practice period music, people say that the leading tone, that is, the raised 7th scale degree, in a minor key, should resolve back to the tonic, that's the 1st scale degree, especially as part of a 5-1. But I don't give a shit, alright? Let's take the C sharp, resolve it to a C, take this E, move it to a D, and take this G and move it to an F. And down here, take this A and go up to a D. So we've got this. That sounds nice! I like that! We're resolving from an A dominant 7, moving the voices as little as possible to a D minor 7 chord. It all makes sense now. It's just so perfect. Resolving the A7 to a D minor 7 sounds pleasant and it just works. And there's your crash course in functional harmony and building and resolving a dominant 7th chord to a minor 1 chord. Most music of the modern day that is widely consumed in modern society, like pop, rock, hip-hop, EDM, etc., 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 is all still tonal, and it's all still functional, which is why you will still hear 5-1s everywhere. But I shouldn't have to tell you that, right? Hear that? 5-1. 5-1. Oh shit, I almost forgot. This, the flat 9. I meant to talk about that. I covered this in the previous music analysis video, what the hell a dominant 7 flat 9 chord is. I talked about jazz chords, extensions, alterations, but I'll very briefly cover it again here. In jazz theory, in jazz harmony, when you've got a dominant chord, a dominant 7 chord, like this one, A, C sharp, E, G. We just talked about this one. You can go up the interval of a 9th, which is just a major second, but you enlarge it by an octave, like that. You can go up the interval of a major 9th, flatten it, and throw that on top of your dominant 7th chord for added spice. It adds tension, because this flattened 9th forms a tritone from this E that's here, and also forms the interval of a minor 9th from the root, from A, which is also a particularly dissonant interval. All of this is just to add tension, so that the resolution feels even better. Okay, that's a little tool you can throw in your toolkit. When you've got a dominant 7th chord, throw in a minor 9th on top, for more spice, for more tension. If you want to hear a longer explanation from me about jazz chords and extensions and alterations, you should go back to that first music analysis video I did on synthesis, because I have a whole section in there where I talk about it. Alright, for now we gotta move on. And now for some more examples. There's the 5. And then there's the 1. Okay, one more time. There's the 5. Did you catch that? I threw the flat 9 in there. There. Five, 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 five. Five, 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 five. 1. And now this one. Five to 1. 5, 1, and then onwards. Although modern harmony is still functional, strict adherence to the guidelines of functional harmony matters less in modern genres of music, like hip-hop or rock or pop or EDM or etc. In functional harmony, your dominant chord, your 5 chord in your key, is the primary driver of tension, the main reason a harmonic journey happens, and your tonic chord is the destination, the place we're most relaxed, the place we're trying to get to. A ton of music from the common practice period can genuinely be summed up with tension builds to the 5 resolves to the 1, and the cycle repeats. But these days you'll hear compositions with all sorts of stuff going on harmonically. Why limit yourself? If you played this song for an 18th century Viennese aristocrat, first off their brain would melt because they'd never seen a cell phone before. Then their brain would continue to melt because they'd never heard a synthesizer, or a drum loop, or the Japanese language. But all of that notwithstanding, they'd probably be a little confused by the harmony in this song. Where's the resolution from 5 to 1? Why are there no dominant chords? The 5 chord is supposed to be the primary driver of tension. If there's no dominant tonic relationship, then what's the point of the composition? To which you respond, the future is now, old man. And the kick and the snare are back to being very, very short, quick, having short release times. And all throughout here, 4 on the floor. And this 4 on the floor stays for the entire chorus. But here, the rhythm that the sub bass is playing changes. And it's interesting because up here, the sub bass was mostly following the kick, but then once we get to the second half of the chorus, something really interesting happens. The sub bass and the kick part ways rhythmically, and the interaction between them starts getting really cool. Especially there. Let's go back to the beginning of the second half. Okay, I didn't explain anything for those whole 10 seconds and I just sat here at my keyboard nodding like a madman. Let's try that again. Back here. Boom. So, the kick is continuing to hold that 4 on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unrelenting, never letting up. But the sub bass, the low end instrument, the synth that they've got playing those low notes, starts doing something different. Something like that, alright? But we had gotten used to the sub bass and the kick working in lockstep during the first half of the chorus. So when they break away from each other rhythmically in the second half of the chorus, that's something new. It catches your ear, and it sounds good. Okay, check this out. I'm gonna show you the little arrangement I played at the beginning, but just the drums, bass, and piano. This will allow you to very easily hone in on the interaction between the bass and kick drum from the original song that I'm talking about. It's really interesting, the way that these two different low-end elements interact with each other and layer on top of each other, and sometimes they're together and sometimes they're not, now that they're playing different rhythms. The kick, keeping that 4 on the floor going, and the sub bass going, doing its own thing. And here it sounds like there are multiple of those square-based plucky staccato synth going, doing their own thing. And sometimes that synth follows the rhythm of the sub bass, like here. Like at the beginning of this section, it was very easy to hear. Here, had the synth hit on those notes. But otherwise, the synth is going off, continuing countermelody. And here, that is a cool little figure. And sometimes you can hear it mirroring the melody, the melodic contour that the singer is singing. Like how it descends there. It goes up and descends. The same way the singer is doing. The same way the singer is doing this. Going up and then descending. And again, not to mention that all of this from the singer, the melody that the singer is singing is still very pentatonic. Still very pentatonic, right? In A minor, the A minor pentatonic scale. Everything is super pentatonic throughout all of this. And there they end on a major 1 instead of the minor 1. The key that we were in. It goes like we're ending on an A major triad instead of an A minor 1. Okay, now onwards to verse 2. Took us fucking forever to get here, but... This is what I mean when I mentioned earlier the emotional quality of the singer's performance. Here, in the beginning of verse 2, it almost sounds like the singer is exhausted or tired or fed up with something. Yeah, they're tired, they're sick of it, they're fed up with something. While in the beginning, and throughout verse 1, it was energetic, and in the intro, it was mischievous. And here, it's totally different. It all adds up to a very sinister atmosphere. I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. Feels like something's not quite right here. And adding on to this are those weird whining and whirring sound effects going on in the background. That orchestra hit is back. And the drums sound a little bit more complex. All those crazy chaotic hi-hats are back. And the kick drum is playing a much sparser rhythm. Wait, and then there's also a sound in there that sounds like a very high-pitched tom drum or a bottle. There. Some kind of pitched percussion, maybe something tubular. Not quite a cowbell. I really like the idea that maybe it's a bottle. But shit, something's wrong here. Something's going on. Something bad. And then this part, shit's just hitting the fan. Shit's going crazy. Now that bottle or other form of pitched percussion that I was talking about is coming in full force. That's a common sound that I hear a lot in hip-hop, and also certain forms of EDM. Also on the vocals, we've got a little bit of distortion. Distortion's that guitar effect, that guitar pedal. It's what makes an electric guitar sound like the electric guitar you know and love. Distortion occurs when you push a signal's amplitude past what its hardware is able to handle. So the tops of those waves, the tops of the sound waveform, get clipped off.
Like this, kind of like this. I'm talking with some distortion applied to my own voice.
Now I'm talking with a little bit milder distortion. It should sound a little bit like the vocals here. Do they? They should. And I hope you remember what I said a while ago about how they were gonna start messing with the pitch really severely. Because they're really doing that here. Right there. Raising the pitch of her voice a little. And it's gonna get a lot crazier going through here. The pitch is rising. Still rising. Still rising. It's just going absolutely fucking haywire in this last bit. Also, holy shit. The music video is so cool. Like, look at this. Something else I want to mention in this part is how they're paying special close attention to how the sub bass sounds here and adding to the chaotic atmosphere that's going on. There, you heard the sub bass flutter in and out very quickly, very quick notes. There. There. It's really cool. And once again there, before the drop hit, they cut out all of the low end frequencies, all of the bass, all of the sub bass. Gone, boom. So that the drop hits harder. Just like the first chorus. And for the most part, this second chorus is just like the first chorus. Not a lot is different. There's not much else for me to analyze and break down, so just keep going. But you'll notice that here, in the second half of the second chorus, the kick is still holding that 4 on the floor, and the sub bass, this time, is sticking with the kick. It's also going continuously. It's not doing the stuff that it was doing in the second half of the first chorus, which was to play its own rhythm that sounded like... And the crowd chants are back in full force. Here's something I only noticed as I was editing this part of the video. The rhythm of the vocal melody changes to match the rhythm that the bass was playing in the second half of the first chorus. That's super cool and I can't believe I missed it. Listen closely. You hear that? Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. That's the same rhythm. Then, this part. I guess the bridge. Or post-chorus. I don't know. This part. Just like the intro. I fucked that up. But we've also got a slow down of the tempo. Quite drastically. 1, 2, 3, 4. And most of the instruments have dropped out again. So there's so many different textural changes between all the different sections. In the verses, there's a lot going on, and then the pre-chorus, most things drop out, and then there's a build-up, the texture thickens again. In the chorus, there's a lot going on. The texture changes from section to section. There's a lot of contrast in that, which makes stuff interesting. Orchestra hits are back. And here's something super important that I knew I needed to make sure that I was going to mention. This thing that they're doing to her voice. This effect that they're doing to her voice. Listen to this part with headphones. Or on some really good speakers. It should sound like her voice is all around you, surrounding you, larger than life. How they're doing this is applying a very short delay to her voice. A delay is an audio effect that repeats whatever you send through it at a set duration in time later. So, it's like an echo. Think of it like an echo. But something very interesting happens when you shorten that delay time until it's so short that your mind can't distinguish between the original sound and the echo. Like, the played back delayed sound. You shorten the delay time so much that your mind thinks it's just one sound. That's what's happening here. They've applied a really short delay to her voice, combining, smushing together her original vocals and the delayed copy so that they're just slightly offset by mere milliseconds. It makes her voice sound like it's all around you. It's like the fucking voice of God. See what I mean? Here's me talking without that delay effect, no voice of God. But then,
I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end.
See, all I did was add that really short delay effect that I was talking about, and then pitch shift my voice down by 1 semitone, and then you hear it, you've got the voice of God. There's plenty of parts here in this section where it's just silence except for her vocals, and some quiet hi-hats going on in the background. There, silence, some drums, and then silence, but just her vocals and the silence. There. But these brief moments of silence make you really focus on her voice. That's the only thing that's there. Well, besides the drums, the hi-hats, and the marching snare. That's the only thing that's there. It's the most prominent thing that's there. It's the loudest thing that's there. It forces you to hear it and listen to it. It forces your attention towards it. That's what silence is great for. People who are making music know that you don't need to fill every moment up with sound. Silence is beautiful too. Silence is music too. And here the silence serves a very particular purpose, which I just told you about. And here strings and horns and choir vocals all come back, and this section is so grand and so texturally dense. No fucking way. The soju's hitting, bro. And beneath it all, the orchestra hits are still there, propelling us forward. Love that. Now onwards we go. Everything is gone except for the vocals and the piano. This piano part is very pretty. Still very pentatonic. I think we are revisiting the progression and the melody from the chorus, or at least borrowing it and changing it a little bit. And then back down from A minor down to A flat minor again. we've shifted down a half step. Like I mentioned before, as a key change upwards usually signifies an increase in energy, a key change downwards usually indicates a decrease in energy. But guess what? Surprise! Now we've gone up even higher. We've done a key change, up not just a half step, but a whole step from where we were previously. A minor, then we went back down here. And now we've gone up a whole step to here. B flat minor. That's up 2 half steps. That's double the energy. Okay, let's move on to the final chorus. Once again, that technique. Increasing how hard a drop hits by cutting out all the low end right before it hits. Boom. So then the low end can hit harder when the drop comes. Also, this was used previously a couple of times. But that riser, that rising sound, a super common sound that producers will use to lead us into a new section and raise the energy as we move forward. And besides being in a different key, you know, we shifted up a little bit. This chorus is mostly the same as the other choruses that we've covered earlier. So why don't we just sit back and enjoy it? Nothing to analyze here. Damn. Sick song. Nice. How long have I been here? I think I'm done here. 2.5 hours of recording. Yeah. Shorter than the previous one. Shorter than the one that I did on synthesis by a significant amount. But, you know, in synthesis, there was a lot more that I had to do. There was a lot more to analyze. I had a whiteboard. I was drawing all sorts of stuff. I had to cover mainly what was in the video. And there was a lot of stuff in the video and associated visualizer for synthesis. And that wasn't the case here. There was still a lot going on in the song, so we still had a lot to discuss. And the music video was cool too. You know, I could have easily just gone to the YouTube music page and pulled up what YouTube Music has and listened to the song through there, where they just have a still image of the album cover. But, you know, I figured, why not watch the music video? It'll give us something to look at while we're analyzing and dissecting what's going on in the song. And I'm glad I did, because that was a cool music video. One more thing I gotta do before I close this video out is shout out Cooley again. He's my friend, was my roommate in college, and funny thing is, he actually recommended me synthesis, which was the subject of our previous music analysis video here on this channel. And wouldn't you know it, he was one of the folks who recommended me this song, Idol. So I guess this gives Cooley a flawless track record of 2 for 2 when it comes to recommending me songs that I eventually like enough to make a music analysis video for. So I guess that means keep up the stellar work, Cooley. Keep recommending me music, cause I don't know, I might end up analyzing it here, and you all might like it. I never would have heard or even heard of synthesis had Cooley not recommended it to me a year ago, and a shit ton of people liked my analysis of it, and a shit ton of people like the tune itself. So if you like the tunes that I choose to analyze, you can thank him. I think that is an F. Oh, I'm right. A little bit flat, though. For those of you who are curious, no, I don't have perfect pitch, but I do have this weird thing going on with me that allows me to perfectly remember the keys of almost every song I've ever heard. So, for instance, let's take my favorite song ever. That would be All These Things That I've Done by The Killers. Without a reference, I'm able to jump straight to this part of verse 2, where he goes, "When there's nowhere else to run." And using that starting pitch I know it's an F sharp because the song is in the key of F sharp, and I know that pitch that he's starting on in verse 2 is F sharp. When there's nowhere else to run. I can do this for a ton of songs that I like and a ton of songs that I remember. But the method that I use to quickly identify any pitch that I'm hearing is to do the process that I did for all 12 tones in 12-tone equal temperament. So, for instance, if I need a C, I know that A Cruel Angel's Thesis is in the key of C minor. So I just think of that starting note of the chorus. That C there. I just think of that starting note of the chorus, and I've got my C. In case I need an E flat, I know that the first prominent note that John Coltrane plays at the beginning of Resolution off of A Love Supreme is an E flat. But that first prominent note is an E flat. And so using that, I can just pull up an E flat out of nowhere without a reference. If I want an A flat, I remember Doctor from Homestuck. It's in the key of A flat minor. Coincidentally, that's the same key as Idol, or at least the beginning of it. And I've got one of these reference tunes for each of the 12 tones in 12-tone equal temperament. That's how I managed to pull this off without actually having perfect pitch. Ooh, one more. This one's a fun one that I want to mention. How do I arrive at the note G without a reference pitch? Well, I think of Corneria from Super Smash Bros. Brawl, in particular. I know it's in G minor, I know the first note is a G, I just think of that, and then I can arrive at a G without a reference pitch. Corneria is a fucking banger. Dude, Super Smash Bros. Brawl has a ton of bangers in it. Bramble Blast? Holy shit. Okay, I've been recording for way too long. It's 12:30 a.m. I'm gonna cut this shit before it gets too long and way out of hand. Some might even say it's already out of hand. Yeah, we're done here. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.